Hello, greetings Indie Warriors. Welcome back to I Dream of Indie Games. My name is Old Gamer Joe, and we are back with our favorite indies Volume 6. Yes, we have been collecting the greatest indies and AA niche games of all time if you've missed the last few episodes. So, I will put links to each and every volume in the description box below. Volume 6, yes, 10 more bangers on the way. Of course, this list is our opinion and our opinion alone, so feel free to squabble in the comments all you wish and shout out some of your favorites. Perhaps they will even appear in future episodes. But without further ado, let's get into it. Just 1 second, okay? Let me just get you for 1 second because we do have a Patreon and it helps us to keep the lights on. Head on over to patreon.com/idreamofindiegames and you can gain Discord access, early ad-free shows, shoutouts at the end of every video we produce, and even free games depending on the tier. Nobody likes a plug, but we really appreciate your support. Thank you so much. All right, let's get into it. And number 10 is a game that I'm honestly a little bit embarrassed that I haven't had it on a list yet, but better late than never. An absolute classic and really one of the most important indie games ever released. It was at a time where you had games like Braid and this new wave of indie titles. It was cool to be indie when Super Meat Boy hit the scene. Pretty well done game, if you get the pun. Created by Edmund McMillan and Tommy Raffinas, this game is a tough as nails platformer where you're trying to navigate your way through a variety of different traps, whether it be blades or blocks, anything that stands in your way. It all wants to kill you. Take down over 300 levels as you try to rescue your girl from the evil Dr. Fetus. Super Meat Boy was so well made, and it was also greatly appreciated by audiences. It was a commercial success at the time, and it's also notable for being one of the first games to ever be part of a humble indie bundle. Now, fun fact here, I'm going to drop a little knowledge bomb on you. Did you know that the original Meat Boy was actually a Flash game first? Yes, it only took 3 weeks to make it, and I guess it was so popular that it caught the attention of both Nintendo and Microsoft. They greenlit a full-on game for their consoles, and so Super Meat Boy was born. But big bad Sony wanted nothing to do with Super Meat Boy, and because of that, the developers decided, screw them, we're not putting it on PlayStation 3, so PS3 fans did get hosed. Thankfully, it eventually went to the PS4 and the Vita, but quite a bit down the road. So yeah, PlayStation got a little mouthful of meat on that one. They did do a sequel, Super Meat Boy Forever, which I personally thought was pretty good, but it was radically different, and a lot of fans rejected it because of that and didn't enjoy it as much as the original. And to be fair, it is not the original. That's perfectly fine, but it did leave a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths. However, they also just, I believe it was last year, did a puzzle game that we really quite enjoyed here at I Dream of Indie Games, Dr. Fetus' Mean Meat Machine. So the franchise lives on to some degree. I don't know if we'll ever get a traditional classic Super Meat Boy. It was kind of a time and a place thing. I don't know if we need one per se. There are 300 levels of this, but Super Meat Boy has also made a bunch of cameos. He will live on in our hearts forever, even if the games aren't quite as good going forward. All right, I'm excited to induct this next game. It is the definition of indie. It was literally first released independently online. Eventually, it was picked up by a publisher. But yeah, Frictional Games' Amnesia, The Dark Descent. Just a chilling, horrifying experience when it released. Again, a 2010 release. So that was a big year for indie games. You know, a little story time here with Old Gamer Joe. One of the saddest moments in my gaming history was actually putting in Resident Evil 5 for the first time and realizing that, man, I don't think this franchise is for me anymore. They've made Resident Evil action. I was worried about where survival horror was going in general. Were we still gonna get scary games, or were we gonna get these big muscly brutes and these meathead action games that aren't scary or spooky? Yeah, you might have some of the essence of what Resident Evil was, but really it just felt soulless to me. There was the co-op component of it as well, which is cool. I don't mind games having co-op, but it just didn't work for me, and then it was followed by Resident Evil 6, and eventually Capcom would find its way, and I think a lot of that has to do with Amnesia here, which took place from the first-person perspective and relied on the environments to ratchet up the fear. Yes, Amnesia: The Dark Descent has really great atmosphere. It's the sound, though. The sound is absolutely chilling. I remember going down to my friend's basement. He was playing this game. I was blown away. He had a surround sound set up, and I could hear all these creepy noises from every direction. direction. The lighting in the game was very impressive. It just really used its atmosphere to create scares, and I was impressed by that. You don't always have to show everything to create fear, and you certainly don't have to have a big muscly brute mowing down a weird zombie with a giant machine gun either. Something that remains pretty impressive today was the HPL engine that was used for this title. It really allowed for a lot of different ways to interact with the environments. You could throw almost anything that you came across, the way that you could open different doors and interact with things. It was very impressive. That engine remains used today in games, and also another thing that I absolutely loved with Amnesia was the sanity system. If you don't find light and you stay in the darkness, you're gonna start seeing some crazy stuff. I just loved this slow descent into madness. It was another thing to worry about and another thing to create terror. The setting is pretty cool in this dark, disturbing castle. I just really like everything about this game. It's influential. It was an important indie release, and I'm very happy to have it on this list. There are quite a few sequels. I don't think any of them quite live up to the original, but we did just recently have The Bunker, another game that is slow-paced but creates a cool atmosphere, just like this original game did. Alright, on to number 8. Whoever says game soundtracks don't matter, they are a fool. They make a huge difference, in my opinion anyways. I'm a music lover. I love video game music in particular. That's just me. But in Furi, the soundtrack really makes this game as a whole so much better. It just wouldn't be as good of a game without it. So yes, while the soundtrack is a crucial component, we're here to induct the best overall games, and Furi also delivers in the gameplay department, if you ask me. I think this game got a few sour reviews, and without good reason. Furi is a very frantic game. It is kind of a mix of different genres. There's a little bit of hack and slash in there. It has an arcade feel to it, but really it's all about boss encounters. Now, some people might say, a game where you just fight bosses? That's lame. Well, to you, I say, what about Shadow of the Colossus, huh? One of the great games ever. You battle through 10 different arenas. There are some quick time events as well, but more interesting, this game's kind of a shooter too, a twin stick style shooter. And so this is a rare indie where it was a bit overly ambitious, but it all kind of came together and worked for me. I love the stylized visuals. Obviously, I commented about how great the thumping soundtrack is, and the gameplay is really intense too. Why are you stuck in this endless prison? What are all of these bosses about? It's a mysterious game in its story too, and there are even different alternate endings to help flesh things out. Well, maybe. Okay, so story isn't the strong point here, but it is still pretty thought-provoking and cool for what it is. Something a lot of critics did get hung up on though, and I'll admit I struggled at points in this game, is the difficulty. Furi is tough, but I think if you soldier on, you get used to its mechanics, and you eventually succeed, you'll be glad that you played through this one and survived it. Really great game. Happy to have it here on the list as well. Alright, let us travel back to the year 2012. My PlayStation 3 was thirsty for a video game, and it got a great one, though it was in a dry desert, so maybe it was still thirsty. But either way, the game was Journey, released on the PlayStation 3. Eventually, it did make its way over to the PS4 and Windows PC. That took a while though, 2019 when it came out over there. But either way, the more people that get to experience this one, the better, because it is a compelling adventure game. It's really what Journey doesn't tell you that makes it so thought-provoking and intriguing. All you know is that you're this robed figure, you're dropped into the middle of the desert, there's a mountain way off in the distance that you can see, and you want to travel towards it. Why? I don't know. You don't have that many ways to communicate in this game, but there are a few non-conventional methods, and there are others on this journey too, and they don't know why. So what makes this so fascinating? It sounds kind of lame. No, it really isn't. It's just all about the journey, not the destination. That's an old saying, right? Created by that game company, this was actually one of 3 games that they were required to make for Sony. The other games were Flower, which I also really enjoyed. It had great use of motion controls, which is a weird thing to say because I never like motion controls. And the other game was also excellent, called Flow. Journey ended up taking a lot longer to make than they had anticipated. I believe it was around 3 years for it to finally be completed. did. Sony probably wasn't super happy about that, but I'm sure they were happy ultimately with the reception this game got because critics just loved it and gamers alike. And a lot of the magic too was brought to life again from the soundtrack from Austin Wintory. The soundtrack was so good that it was released as a standalone and downloaded thousands and thousands of times. It even ended up leading to a tour where the musical compositions were played. Factoring everything though, Journey is a classic and a must-play for any indie gaming fan, regardless of which genres you like. This one really appeals to everyone. Alright, this is quite the shift from Journey, but I think party games deserve a little bit of love on this list. It's been too long, what do you say? And this is a great one from developer Ghost Town Games and publisher Team 17. Come on, how many games have been influenced by Overcooked? Yes, a cooking game was very influential on the indie scene. Overcooked also probably ended quite a few friendships, and maybe even a marriage or two along the way. It's a game where you have to cooperate and work together with someone, and if you start to screw things up, they're gonna let you know about it usually, unless you're playing with really calm people that don't get upset easily. I know every time I played Overcooked, it was a room full of screaming friends. But it was also a great game at bringing people together and a whole lot of fun. I can't tell you how long me and Silent Signs played this game, trying to get more and more stars on those damn levels, and eventually just screaming at each other about, you screwed up, no, you screwed up. But like I said, Overcooked is all about teamwork. One person will have to chop tomatoes, for example. One person might have to go boil the water, and how you do it without burning things or having the kitchen self-destruct, well, it's up to you, and you really do have to work together. You gotta shout orders out, you gotta make sure you're on the same page, or you're gonna screw each other over. All told, I really love Overcooked. I never played the sequel, unfortunately. I've been meaning to get around to it. You'll have to let me know in the comments below if you played it. At number 5, what happens when the legendary Koji Igarashi leaves Konami and decides to go the indie route? Well, he of course basically makes another Castlevania-style game. This is a Metroidvania, but Bloodstained Ritual of the Night is an interesting story. It was actually launched through Kickstarter. Very successful. It made over $5 million there. You know how Kickstarters can go though. There's just no guarantee it's going to be great. We've seen plenty of disasters, but thankfully that wasn't the case here. In Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, you play as Miriam, who is a really cool character. I will admit the story is not really my thing in this game. It's not why I was playing it anyways. I don't think it's that great, but I love everything else about this release, particularly the gameplay. That's really what I'm here for and what I love about Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. It just is really well made. It plays good, it has excellent design across the board. The map is one of the strongest in all of Metroidvania games, if you ask me. And you can really tell that with this release, that most of the thought went into the actual design of the game, making the game fun. The visuals won't knock you out or anything like that, but the soundtrack is great. It plays phenomenally, and that's really all you could ask for. This is the closest we'll get to this style of Castlevania from the man himself, I imagine. But also, it's worth noting here that 2 games did come from this release too, and they're NES-style games, maybe even worthy of this list at some point. Bloodstained Curse of the Moon and Bloodstained Curse of the Moon 2. More of an NES style to them, but really great in their own right. But Ritual of the Night, if you're a fan of Metroidvania games, you just gotta own this one. Up next, a game that has been requested in the comments by many of you. Of course it was going to be on this list at one point or another. Well deserved too. We'll stick with the Metroidvania genre, a really stunning, beautiful one. We talked about how the last game didn't have the greatest graphics, but it had great gameplay. Well, Ori and the Blind Forest has excellent visuals and game design and gameplay, and really everything comes together to create a masterpiece. The developer Moon Studios has cited some pretty interesting inspirations for this one, including The Lion King and the Rayman franchise. Of course, Metroid's an obvious one here, but yeah, you can kind of see the magic of The Lion King and Rayman in this too. The game is challenging, but there's a lot of wonderful upgrades. Each new area is just a joy to explore because it is so beautiful. It always sounds great. Again, top-notch game design here by Moon Studios. I've unfortunately not played the sequel yet. You'll also have to let me know in the comments below, did you like the sequel more than the original? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that and why I should play it, or maybe I shouldn't play it, I don't know. But either way, Ori and the Blind Forest was going to show up here at one point or another. Here it is, a phenomenal game. On to the top 3 now. You know, when a game can make you feel speechless or just keep you thinking after you've completed it, you gotta believe believe it was a success in what it was trying to do. Gone Home is an experience that I played through once, and I just felt satisfied, like I never wanted to play it again. I was really just left in awe. This game is often credited for leading to the whole walking simulator genre. Now, whatever you think of that term is on you. I could care less. I don't know, I think of it more as a narrative experience myself. Your name is Katie. You are left in front of this house and off to explore it. There's no real defined goals, it's just off to explore. You'll find out more about yourself than you ever imagined as you do that exploration. Hell, you can finish the game within an instant if you want, or you can continue to learn more and more. It's all in how you approach it. You come to learn that Katie has been away for a while, but a lot has changed in the time that she was gone. Gone Home is not really easy to talk about without spoiling. I just recommend checking it out for yourself. There are some pretty heavy themes in it, but it's about life at the end of the day, and some of the challenges that come with life, some of the challenges that many of us have gone through or will go through in the future. I love this game personally. So number 2 is an interesting one for me. It is Fez, a puzzle platforming game, a really excellent one, but a lot of people think of the developer of this game when they think of Fez now, because he was in the documentary indie game The Movie. That, of course, is Phil Fish. He didn't exactly come off as the nicest guy in that particular documentary, and I think that's kind of left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. But I'm not here to talk about the guy so much, I'm here to talk about the game. The first thing you notice about Fez is the visual style, those lovely pixels. It's just gorgeous. But I also think we forget at times how creative and challenging this game was. The mix of 2D and 3D here still really blows my mind today. I can see why it was an absolute nightmare to try and program this thing. It is not a real action-based game. There's not really a lot of enemies to defeat or anything like that. It's all about using your brain. Oh, no wonder I wasn't very good at it. There's so many cool codes and secrets in this game and callbacks to the 8-bit era of gaming that I really find it to be brilliant. It's a shame that it took so long to come out, and ultimately it was trapped in a deal with Microsoft where it didn't sell initially as well as it should have. And then infamously, it cost a ton to get the game patched. And a lot of people don't realize this. Yes, it cost indie developers a lot to put their games on consoles, even to this day, whether it be Switch or PlayStation or Xbox. These folks want big time money. So if you're wondering sometimes why your favorite indie doesn't come to your favorite console right away, that's probably a big factor many of the times. But anyways, all of the controversies aside, I still think Fez is worth playing through today. It's just very creative and imaginative and a joy to play through and look at. Hey everyone, thanks so much for surviving another list with me. We hope you had fun. Sorry I was a little long-winded in this one, but I felt like communicating and talking with you all today. I'm in a good mood. Alright, I'm gonna catch some flack for this one because it is a newer game, but I don't care. This is my list, damn it. And if you tell me this game hasn't had an impact, you're just out of your mind. It already has had a huge impact on the indie gaming scene, selling 100,000 copies on its first day, and it doesn't hurt that it's an excellent game that a lot of people were craving for a long time. We don't want these retro RPGs to ever die, and thankfully we still get great ones from time to time, like the outstanding Sea of Stars here at number 1, a game that is just beautifully executed on every level, from the pixel art, the story, the characters, the wonderful soundtrack, the turn-based combat. This is everything RPG fans love. And you know, I look at what's happened to the Final Fantasy series over the years, and I just don't connect with it anymore. I grew up, and that series did not come along with me. It's made for a different type of audience now, and honestly, that really freaking hurts, doesn't it? You know, I tried to play Final Fantasy 16. It was the first AAA game I bought in quite a long time, and I was enjoying the story at first for a little bit, but then this gameplay just never came, and I was just watching a movie basically, and then the story was going downhill, and I stopped about 6 or 7 hours in. These classic JRPGs used to grab us because not only did they have compelling characters, worlds, and stories, but they had gameplay to back it up. Sea of Stars really delivers that 16-bit experience, so you just gotta own this one if you're a fan of those classic games. And that's gonna do it for me now, folks. We hope you enjoyed Volume 6 of of the greatest indie games of all time. Keep those suggestions coming in the comments below. We'd love to hear which games you think should be inducted. And remember, description box, we've got all the other volumes there, so you don't have to ask about the other games that we've included. They're right there for the watching and viewing. You got a good hour, if not more, of content to enjoy, and this list is just going to keep growing throughout the year. Thank you so much for supporting independent content. Head over to patreon.com/idreamofindiegames if you'd like to support us further, gain Discord access, and so much more. Your community is waiting for you, and I will see you on the channel for more indie gaming content.